You're watching Minnesota Vikings Now. Our goal here, having just passed 5,000 subs, thank you all so much for that, by the way, is now 6,000 before week 1. A high bar, but we're in the midst of preseason. More viewers, new audience every single day, and we have the numbers to show the vast majority of you have not subscribed to us here at Vikings Now. So, let's change that. Hit that big red button and subscribe right now. You're watching Vikings Now. I am Tom Downey. Here with some pretty major rumors around Minnesota from Ndamukong Suh, Ebron. But we begin with everyone's favorite center, he said, heavily sarcastically, Garrett Bradberry. Vikings head coach Kevin O'Connell has not committed to Bradberry being the guy at center, being the starter, being the pivot man for the offensive line. O'Connell says there's still competition going on at the spot, that they are challenging Garrett Bradberry, who has not had the best training camp so far, which probably isn't a huge surprise. Here's what O'Connell said. Quote, pass blocking is where we're challenging him each and every time. Technique. He's got a good anchor when he's got his feet underneath him. I think he has the strength to hold up. I think he has the technique to hold up. I think we can do some things with how we protect to try to limit some of the one-on-one situations by how we scheme up certain fronts. That is the quote of a man who does not trust his center. When you talk about how you avoid one-on-ones, and that means you don't trust him. Now, in general, centers don't get that many one-on-ones, but Bradberry got beat a lot more in the passing game than what you would anticipate. He is an athletic move center, but the strength has not been great. That's been on display against guys like Harrison Phillips all camp so far, and it is a pretty valid red flag for this Vikings organization. Now, Bradberry so far, and we'll come back to this more in depth, is the only one getting starting center reps. Austin Schlottman has worked as the backup center. Chris Reed as kind of one of the top backups on the offense at the offensive guard positions. But Bradberry so far has been the heavy front runner for the job because he's the first round pick. He's the one getting the reps at center, and I still believe that is the case. But Kevin O'Connell has at least left the door open for a potential change, adjustment, drastic move at the position. So more on this coming up in a moment. But for week 1, will Garrett Bradberry start at center? Not what you want, what you think will happen. Y for yes, N for no. This is our pinned comment on today's show. So if an ad break happens to come here on YouTube, take advantage of it. While the ad plays, go type in Y or N. I do still think this is Garrett Bradberry's job. I base that on the usage at training camp. He is the only one getting reps with the first team. That's a pretty good sign he's the guy. And Austin Schlottman, he's not good either, so I don't want to go that route. Chris Reed hasn't played center in a real game, and it seems like he's going to be just the backup top offensive lineman. The way you could change this is if you went out and signed someone like, I don't know, J.C. Tretter, who still remains unsigned at this point. So, it's an option, I suppose. But my expectation, and if I'm wrong, maybe it's a good thing, or actually, it's probably a bad thing if Bradberry doesn't win your job anyway. If it changes, cool, keep you covered. But I would anticipate Garrett Bradberry being your center and hopefully playing better than he has so far. Let's move now to Ndamukong Suh, the stud, although aging defensive lineman. As we reported many times before, the Vikings and Suh have had conversations about a potential contract, etc. The latest report from Darren Wolfson is the two sides are not close at all to getting a deal done. Money a big factor. I think the relevant contract here is the Akeem Hicks deal that the Bucs gave him to replace Ndamukong Suh. 1 year, $8 million. I thought that was a lot for Akeem Hicks. I would wonder if Ndamukong Suh wants a little bit more. And given that we are now in August, I'm not sure he's going to get that, barring an injury for some team out there, especially since Anthony Barr got 1 year, $2 million, for example, from the Dallas Cowboys. Here's what Darren Wolfson reported. Quote, the Vikings would happily take Ndamukong Suh, another free agent still out there. They would happily take him today. They'd love him on the practice field tomorrow, but at a very specific price point. What Suh is looking for and what the Vikings looking to do, my understanding is the two sides aren't remotely close. And I think that isn't maybe a huge surprise. And look, there are reasons he's unsigned, right? So think about it this way, too. Harrison Phillips is making $6.5 million per year. I would be shocked if Minnesota was offering Suh more than that. So what do you think is the percent chance the Vikings end up signing Ndamukong Suh? I'm not out on the idea, but I think there has to be some adjustment somewhere in the contract negotiations. Drop your percentage for me in the comments. It is August 7th after all, and there are, maybe August 8th depending on when you're watching, but there are reasons why he's still unsigned. I think clearly the asking price is a huge factor in that. So too is the age. Ndamukong Suh, especially by defensive line the defensive line metrics for age, is ancient. There are not very many defensive linemen playing past their age 30, let alone their age 35 campaign. That's rare in the NFL. Despite that, he was quite productive last year. I don't think Ndamukong Suh can really be a true every down player as he's now 35 years old. I think the tackle numbers reflect that, but he can still rush the passer. He can still stop the run. If you give him a lighter workload, he can still be a highly impactful piece for you along the defensive line. And adding Suh would make that front so good. Dalvin Tomlinson, Harrison Phillips, Ndamukong Suh, Armon Watts, a bunch of other young pieces to grow and develop for a year, and then you let Suh leave in free agency next year since, he's 35, right? So I think it's understandable the Vikings have interest. I also wouldn't want them to break the bank on Ndamukong Suh at this point. There's not much of a market, clearly, right now. So I play the waiting game and see if his asking price drops closer to the start of week 1. Now, if the Vikings do sign Suh or bench Garrett Bradberry or sign the other guy we're about to get to, you know we will break it down. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe at youtube.com/Vikings Now. All right, Eric Ebron has recently tweeted out that he's free to sign and he's open and all that kind of stuff, and he wants to be a member of an NFL team, blah, blah, blah. Ebron is unsigned in free agency, and I will make note that Irv Smith is recovering from another injury, and Ebron and the Vikings have been linked more speculatively in the past, but Irv Smith is banged up, and the team is thin on proven tight ends at this point. Irv Smith's banged up, leaving Johnny Munt, who's a blocking tight end, Ben Elfson, a blocking tight end, and late-round draft picks that are totally unproven in Zach Davidson and Nick Muse. So, do you want to sign another tight end? A for yes, B for no. Sound off and let me know what you want Minnesota to do at the tight end position in the comments section. I think a lot of this comes down to how confident you are in Irv Smith. He is expected to be healthy in time for week 1 following thumb surgery, but he's also battled injuries the last 3 years now. He's been banged up a lot. If Smith is going to miss time, Ebron does make a lot of sense as an option at the position. He wasn't great last year. Pat Freiermuth emerged and took that job from him in terms of the number 1 tight end for Pittsburgh, but he's been a productive player in the past. You're not going to get 2018 Irv Smith, but if you can get good number 2 play out of the veteran and allow, maybe it's one of Zach Davidson, Nick Muse as tight end 4, go heavier there while Smith recovers, hypothetically, you of course keep Johnny Munt, that could make some sense. But I think the Vikings are confident Irv Smith will come back. Hopefully, the breakout year for Smith finally does occur. If you made it to the end of today's video, you are a real one because you love what we do here at Minnesota Vikings Now. So if you haven't already, get in the comments section and type in real one to show that you love us, and we'll show you some love in the comments as well.